Attention humanitarian and development professionals. Are you looking to take your career to the next level? Then you've come to the right place. Humanitarian Global offers self-paced online courses designed specifically for you. With our comprehensive curriculum, you'll build your capacity in the most critical areas of humanitarian and development work. Our course offerings include monitoring, evaluation, accountability and learning, water, sanitation and hygiene, disaster risk reduction and management, food security and nutrition in emergencies, procurement and supply chain management, human nutrition and dietetics, maternal, infant and young child nutrition. With Humanitarian Global, you'll have the opportunity to grow your skills and impact the lives of people in need. Visit our website to learn more about our courses and apply today.
Today's topic is breastfeeding in the workplace, how to achieve successful exclusive breastfeeding for working mothers. During this webinar, we'll be able to cover introduction into breastfeeding, preparing for the transition back to work, making the workplace friendly for breastfeeding mothers, beginning pumping, hand expression, and safely storing breast milk, as well as introduction to cup and spoon or bottle to a breastfeeding baby. So I do welcome everyone. We're still waiting on a couple more people to join. As we do that, I would like to introduce myself. I am Diana from Humanitarian Global, and I will be the moderator for this session. At this point, I'd like to hand over to Anthony, who will do a brief introduction on Humanitarian Global and just talk about what Humanitarian Global, the organization, is. Anthony, over to you.
Thank you so much, Diana, and also to all of our participants who are connecting for this webinar. We're happy to have you join our first webinar for maternal, infant, and young child nutrition. And as you have been taken through, we're going to be looking on more into breastfeeding and looking more into some aspects when it comes to how we can go about it. So I would not want to preempt much because Irene is going to take us through. So just in a brief way, in a brief manner, it might be your first time that you are connecting for this particular webinar. We were doing the same last year. And if this is your first time joining us, you might be interested to know who is Humanitarian Global and what we do. So Humanitarian Global, this is a training organization that is based in Nairobi, Kenya. And our main focus has been to work with both humanitarian and also development professionals when it comes to capacity building and training. So that is what we focus on. And some of the areas that we do cover to support humanitarian and development professionals and organizations, they include maternal, infant, and young child nutrition. We do also train on human nutrition and dietetics. We do also train on food security and nutrition in emergencies. Besides that, we do also train on disaster risk reduction and management. We do also train on monitoring, evaluation, accountability, and learning, water sanitation and hygiene, and also procurement and supply chain management. So quite many areas that we do cover, but you don't have to worry so much. We would also be sharing the same information in the chat section so that you can have a look at some of the programs that we do offer. So we look forward to a very engaging session. And as we always say, information, it's something that we need to be willing to share and be able to support you as you go on with your profession. So also for you, feel free to invite your colleagues, your friends, so that they can join for this particular webinar. Share the link with them, they can register and be part of this webinar so that we can learn more about this particular thematic area. So with that said, I would like now to hand it over to Irene, who is going to be our trainer for the day. And she's going to take us through this session. And over to you, Irene.
Thank you for the introduction. My name is Irene Mareki. I am a consultant here at Humanitarian Global. I am a clinical nutritionist, and as such, my areas of training include the maternal and infant young child nutrition, food security and nutrition in emergencies, as well as human nutrition and dietetics. So today we are going to be looking at a very interesting topic, which is breastfeeding in the workplace. And this is because as you know, the WHO has recommended that breastfeeding should be done from when the child is born to when the child gets to 6 months and beyond. So for the first 6 months, it's supposed to be exclusive breastfeeding, but after that, it's when we start complementary feeding and all that. So we are going to look at introduction, first of all. So we need to look at what is breastfeeding. So by definition, breastfeeding is the act of feeding breast milk to an infant. So whichever mode of feeding is used, whether the baby is put directly on the mother's breast or the milk is pumped and fed to the baby from a bottle or from a cup, all that is covered under breastfeeding. So breast milk is the ideal food for infants. It is safe, it is clean, it has all the antibodies that a child needs. It also provides all the energy and nutrients that the infant needs for the first months of life. And that is the first 6 months of life, and continues to provide up to half or more of a child's nutritional needs during the second half of the first year and up to a third during the second year of life. So breastfeeding, as much as we advocate for exclusive breastfeeding for the first 6 months of life, it is good to note that continuous breastfeeding up to 2 years of life is beneficial because it provides more nutrients that the child needs at that time. Also, breastfed children have been shown to perform better on intelligence tests, that is their IQ. They are less likely to be overweight or obese and less prone to diabetes later in life. That is some of the lifelong benefits. So other than the short-term benefits of providing the nutrients, there are long-term benefits. So the child that has been exclusively breastfed for 6 months and also breastfed for up to 2 years, evidence has shown that these children are less likely to be overweight, obese, or develop chronic diseases like type 2 diabetes later on in life. There are other benefits of breastfeeding also to the mother. So women who breastfeed have a reduced risk of certain types of breast cancers, not all of them, and also certain types of ovarian cancers. It helps the mother bond with the child. It also helps the mother lose some of that pregnancy weight. So with that being said, we know that a lot of women who are in the workplace are not given 6 full months of maternity leave. In most of the countries, especially in the developing countries, you find that whether in both the formal or informal sector, the mother is forced to go back to work, either at the 3-month mark or sometimes even earlier. So therein comes the challenge. How is she going to be able to maintain breastfeeding while she's still at work? If she goes back to work at 6 weeks, for example, then she still has many more months to maintain exclusive breastfeeding for up to 6 months. If she goes back after 3 months, she has 3 months where she has to balance going back to work and the baby still getting the full benefits of breastfeeding. Now, while this is a challenge, this has been shown to be a win-win situation for the mother and the employer. So if mothers are supported when they go back to work, you will find that the mother feels more positive about the company or the institution where they work. They will get better job satisfaction. They'll be more willing to work harder because they know that their child is taken care of. And the employer will gain loyalty from these employees. And also because breastfed babies have been shown to have better immunity, these mothers will take off time off work to attend to sick babies less than the mothers who were not supported to continue with exclusive breastfeeding, because the children who now get mixed feeding or are transitioned into food when it's too early, you will find that they tend to have more cases of diarrhea and respiratory infections. So the mother will also take more time off work. So many parents, of course, have this question in mind: how am I going to sustain breastfeeding while I am at work? Now, it's important to note that it's okay to ask for help and to bring up this conversation, because in some of our workplaces, you may find it a bit challenging to come up to the employer or your HR and say this. But remember that most work environments nowadays are give equal opportunities to all genders. So this is an issue that needs to be taken up. This is an issue where, as women, speaking as one right now, we need to bring up this conversation in the workplace, because everybody wins. We will get more work done if we are allowed to continue to breastfeed in one way or another by being supported in the various ways that we are going to look at. So how can you prepare for this transition? If you know you're going back to work in a month or two, so you need to think about it early enough. So once you get your maternity leave, before your maternity leave is up, you need to have a talk with your employer. So find out if the company or the institution you work for has policies in place to support breastfeeding mothers. Do they have flexible working hours? Can your hours be arranged to accommodate your schedule as a new mother? If you have a HR department, you may talk to them so that they may now start thinking about how to be able to accommodate you. For example, they may need now to think about finding a private room for you to be able to go in there and express your milk. They may be able to look at your work schedule and see how many breaks you need in a day so that you can be able to express. If there are more than 2 or 3 breastfeeding mothers, you may be able even to come up with a schedule on how to use this room and how to take those breaks so that your work output is not affected. Then you need to ask friends and family for support. So in order to successfully achieve exclusive breastfeeding for children, it is a community matter, it is a family matter. So as a mother who is going back to work, you need to ask for this support from your family, from your friends, even from fellow co-workers who are other breastfeeding moms. How did you go about it? How can I make sure that I still balance the stress of going back to work and maintaining to breastfeed? And then if it is possible, you can arrange for childcare close to the workplace. There are some workplaces that are really buying into this idea that if we provide childcare for our working mothers, then their work output is better because they do not have to worry about their children. They will take less days of work. They will be more productive. So in some workplaces, you find that they also have a childcare program. If that is not possible, you can think of a way of how, if possible, you can have your child be taken care of at a place where you can easily access them, such that if it is on your lunch break, if you have a 30-minute or 1-hour lunch break, you can rush there and breastfeed and still come back to work. If that is not possible, then you also should consider expressing your breast milk. So expressing your milk is one of the top ways in which we can maintain breastfeeding, because you can express your milk and then someone else can feed your baby. So you can keep milk that you express in a cooler bag, in a fridge or in a freezer, and then you mark it with the date that you have expressed, and the one who is minding your child or taking care of your child is able to organize how that child is going to be fed with just that milk. So having said that now you have thought about a plan, how you're going to transition back to work, you have talked to your employers or your HR, and you have discussed all that you need. If you can have a flexible schedule, flexible working hours, if you can have a child care center that is close to work, you have already discussed that. But now in the workplace itself, how do we make it breastfeeding friendly? So what does the law say about breastfeeding mothers? So different countries at this time have different laws and the health acts that requires employers to provide support to working mothers who are breastfeeding. So some of those laws, including the laws that dictate the length of the maternity leave and the days off work that the mother can have. Some of the organizations have gone a step further and included childcare as part of the benefits to their employees. But there are different laws. Now, it is good to note that the WHO, the World Health Organization, has advocated for exclusive breastfeeding for 6 months and beyond, up to 2 years of life. So that means that we need to review our laws and our policies at the government levels, at the company levels, and ask ourselves if we are supporting the WHO in this endeavor, or if there are some things we could change, if there is more support that we could give to breastfeeding mothers. But with that being said, it is good to note that there are labor laws in all countries that do not allow for discrimination at the workplace. So due to these laws, you can see that there is some kind of support for mothers, but we need to think even further, what more can we do? Because as it stands, less than half of all children are breastfed exclusively for 6 months. So we still have a long way to go if we have not yet reached the 50% mark, then it means we need to provide more support. So you should talk to your employer, or employer should consider the needs of a breastfeeding mother. So for example, if the mother is supposed to be expressing her breast milk, then they need a private non-bathroom space to express the breast milk. So you find in a lot of organizations or a lot of institutions, you do not have a room that is private, that is, it has a lockable door, or somewhere where the mother is not exposed to everyone, or a room that is not a bathroom. So we need a space that is private, that is clean, and that is not a bathroom. This is because when we encourage mothers to express breast milk, it maintains their milk production. And therefore, when you express this breast milk during working hours, it means that your child can continue to have to be exclusively fed on breast milk for those 6 months. It also helps that we can have somewhere the mother can store their milk. So for example, an electric outlet for the mothers that are using electric milk pumps. We also should provide a fridge where the mother can be able to store the breast milk, or even a freezer, these portable freezer bags that the mother can be able to store the breast milk. We need a sink with running water, clean running water, so that the mother can be able to clean the pumps and the water can be safe, so that we do not get infections from dirty water. And then you also need to discuss the best times during your work schedule for expressing breast milk. So it is good that this conversation comes up, because it's a dynamic relationship where the mother needs to work, but still needs to be given enough flexibility to be able to achieve all this. So you can store breast milk in a refrigerator along other foods or in an insulated cooler. You can store or freeze breast milk for up to 6 months or longer. So the mother can also be able to stock up on supply. It's important to note that once breast milk is expressed, it should be labeled with your name and the date you expressed that milk. And that is going to enable the one who is caring for your child to know which milk to use first, so that they can use the milk that was expressed first before the milk that you express later. So due to all these challenges, because we know sometimes it might not be possible to get that private room with a lockable door, we may not be able to provide the fridges or the insulated coolers. So how can a mother go about this? So one of the ways you can do that is to have multiple breast pump kits. So if you have many kits, then you do not need to clean your kit after every use. And if that is not possible or even affordable, the mother can be taught how to hand express milk, so that she just uses her clean hands, expresses it directly into containers without needing to use breast milk. So how can a mother or when should a mother begin pumping or hand expressing this breast milk, and how do you safely store this breast milk? So this should begin when the mother is still at home, so that the transition can be easier and smoother, and so that the mother can learn how to do it quickly, efficiently, how to store the breast milk safely, and also to know if they are more comfortable with pumping manually or using an electric pump or using your hand. So you can freeze small amounts of milk that is collected to be used for the first few days or weeks back at work, and to have a small backup supply. So how you're going to know how much milk you need is that you should think about how much breast milk you need to leave at home for a full day, so that your child is fed for a full day. Think about how many feeds the baby gets and how much milk volume the baby takes at each feed. So you also can start expressing or pumping milk and freezing the breast milk before you go back to work. When the mother is still on maternity leave, she can build up a stock in a freezer, and breast milk lasts 6 to 12 months in the freezer, and it is safe for use. So you should pump every 2 to 3 hours, because that is how often a baby who is below the 6 months of age feeds. So you should work out in your schedule, your work schedule, how you can get a break every 2 to 3 hours to express the milk. You label and date the expressed milk, as we said, and then ensure that you use sterilized containers or special milk storage bags, because we do not want this milk to get contaminated. So how to hand express breast milk? So the mother should make sure that their hands are clean, wash their hands, use a clean container with a wide opening to collect milk. Place a warm washcloth on your breast to help your milk flow, and massage your breast to help increase the amount of milk you can express. So the procedure is the mother should place one hand under their breast for support, and then apply gentle pressure, and using a circular motion with the other hand, massage from several start points, working from the chest towards the nipple. So one hand is under the breast for support, the other hand is on top of the breast, and use circular motions and massage from several starting points from the chest working towards the nipple. And you should lean forward so that your milk can start flowing well. And then hold the clean container near the nipple and ensure that you press in towards the nipple and squeeze gently so that the milk can flow into the container. And then you ensure that, just as with breastfeeding, where we alternate the baby from one breast to another, when you're hand expressing or pumping, you should always alternate between the right and the left breast and ensure that you express until your breast feel empty. That is, you take enough time. Don't switch the breasts very quickly. Ensure that you take enough time to empty your breast. So once you hand express this milk, now it comes to how are we going to feed our baby. So to maintain this exclusive breastfeeding, we said you can use a cup, you can use a spoon, you can use a cup and spoon, or you can use a bottle. Now, we do not encourage the use of a bottle because of the many risks it comes with. You can get nipple confusion. When you introduce a bottle too early, the baby can now start rejecting the breast in favor for the bottle. Also, the teats in those bottles are a bit challenging to clean, where the person cannot get into all those corners and crevices. So the child has an increased risk of getting infection from that. So we encourage the use of cup and spoon, or a spoon at first. But if that is not possible and you need to use a bottle, ensure that you buy enough bottles so that there is no pressure of cleaning the bottle immediately after each use, and so that you can have enough time to sterilize and air dry the bottles. Ensure that you have clean running water to wash these utensils with. Ensure that these utensils are washed separately from those of the family so that we do not get cross-contamination, and ensure that they are air dried. So for you to figure out how much feed you're going to give your baby, we are going to have to calculate it so that we have a rough estimate. So research has shown us that exclusively breastfed babies take an average of 750 ml of breast milk per day between the ages of 1 to 6 months. But different babies can take more or less. So the range is between 570 to 900 ml. So if we take, for example, 900 ml on the higher side, for you to determine how much feed your baby is going to be fed, you're going to take the 900 ml and then divide it by the typical number of times your baby feeds. So if, for example, your baby, while at home, breastfeeds every 3 hours, so that means every 24 hours, your baby feeds every 8 hours. Your baby feeds 8 times every 24 hours. You're going to take the total volume of feeds, which is 900 ml, and divide it by 8 feeds, so that you can get the amount of feed that the baby is supposed to be given every feeding time. Now, this is not an exact calculation, so we are dealing with a range. So if, for example, you find out that your baby should be given around 125 ml every 3 hours of breast milk, then you can avail from 125 ml to around 140 ml, so that they a bit more if they are still hungry. So we work with ranges. You divide the total amount of feed in a day, divide by the number of feeds the baby gets, then you get the exact amount of ml that your baby is estimated to take in, and then you provide a bit more so that if the baby is hungrier than expected, you still accommodate that. So this level or this quantity of breast milk remains around the same for babies 1 to 6 months, but then as the baby continues to grow, the volume of milk that the baby takes also increases. So keep in mind, if for example you started feeding your child at 3 months when you went back to work, the volume of milk that the baby is going to take at 4 months, 5 months, 6 months is going to be on a steady increase. So little by little, the baby will take more and more milk. But then after 6 months, because now we introduce complementary feeding, the amount of milk the baby needs might be a bit less. So how do you know that the baby is hungry? Because when you leave a child with a child minder, you need to educate them about the volume of milk they should give the baby at every feed, how often they should give it, how to safely prepare this milk, and how to tell if the child is hungry. So some of the baby hunger cues are rapid eye movements. The baby starts stretching and moving their arms and legs as if they're uncomfortable. They bring their hands to the mouth. They stick out their tongue and start licking their lips. They make sucking motions or sounds. They do what we call rooting, that is opening the mouth and moving the head from side to side as if they are looking for something to suck on. Then also they might produce some soft cooing or sighing sounds. So when the baby begins to show these signs, then the bottle or the cup that has the breast milk should be taken from the refrigerator or from the cooler and placed in a bowl of warm water. So we use warm water bath to warm breast milk. We do not boil it and we do not microwave it. We use a warm water bath so that the milk does not lose the protein in it, because if we boil it, then we might destroy some of these components of the milk. So we use a warm water bath. So if you're going to use a spoon feeding, you put a bib on your baby, because of course some milk may spill. Sit your baby up on the lap and use one hand to support the baby's upper arm, upper back and neck. Then you bring the spoon to the baby's mouth and tip so that the breast milk just touches your baby's lips. It should not be poured into your baby's mouth. So feeding a baby with a spoon and cup takes a bit of patience, and you should let the baby lead it and control the speed of feeding. And this is because even when breastfeeding, it is the child who controls the rate at which they breastfeed. They are the ones who are suckling. They are the ones who control that speed. So in the same way, when you're feeding a child this breast milk, just bring the spoon to the baby's lips and let the baby kind of take that milk with their tongue and swallow at their own pace, so that we can also reduce the cases of choking or the child becoming uncomfortable. So the baby will lap the breast milk up by moving his tongue forward, and you should allow the baby time to swallow before refilling the spoon and offering more breast milk. And this is how your baby should control the speed of feeding. If you're going to use a cup, you also put a bib on the baby, sit your baby up using one hand and support the baby's upper back and neck. And then just like with the spoon, place the edge of the cup gently against your baby's bottom lip and tip so that the breast milk just touches your baby's lips. Keep the cup tipped during feeding so that the breast milk is always in contact with your baby's lips, and this will allow the baby to control the speed of feeding. So always remember, when you're using a cup and spoon, milk should not be poured into the child's mouth. It is the child that will lap the milk with their tongue from the spoon or from the cup. Your job is just to ensure that there is a refill of the spoon when the child has finished the milk on the spoon, or you keep the cup tipped so that the baby is always in contact with the cup. So if you're doing bottled feeding, you should ensure that you encourage the baby to open their mouth, and then bring the baby up onto the bottle nipple and aim the nipple towards the palate or the top part of the baby's mouth, and then hold the bottle at an angle, and this will allow the baby to keep control of the rate of feeding also. And always ensure after every feeding session, whether with a cup, with a spoon, or with a bottle, any breast milk that had been taken from the refrigerator or the cooler and warmed up for a feed, any milk that remains should be thrown out. So always ensure that you have an estimate of the amount of milk that a baby will finish in one feeding, so that also the milk is does not go to waste. But every feed that had been warmed up, every milk, all the time when a feed is done, the baby is full, you have burped the baby, then ensure that the excess milk is poured out. Always ensure that the baby is also held in an upright, almost sitting position that is usually used when a person is sitting upright to feed. Always ensure that the baby's head is supported, and the baby is the one who is supposed to control the flow of the milk. Also give the baby a few breaks. If the baby stops feeding for a minute or two, give the baby a break and then try again. If the baby falls asleep while feeding, leave the baby. Do not force feed the baby. That is what we are trying to say. We are saying this is a baby-led feeding. It is not up to you or the child minder to force all the milk on the baby, but it is baby-led. It is done on baby's demand. When the baby is hungry and shows those hunger cues, then the baby is fed. If the baby stops feeding or is full, we do not force them to finish all the milk. Always ensure that you burp the baby, or the baby is burped after feeding, so that the baby does not get too gassy or have a lot of stomach upset. And always ensure that after every feed, the utensils that you use are washed separately. As we said, they are air dried, and we can be able to sterilize them. So that brings me to the end of the information I had today. I know it has been quite short, but I want to leave some time for a few questions. And I would like to inform you that this webinar is just a small part, a very, very small part of what we offer while we are doing the training. So if you join us for our maternal, infant, and young child nutrition course, we go through all of these. We learn more about breastfeeding in depth. We have demonstrations, we have case studies. There's a lot that we learn. And also there is a workshop that Humanitarian Global is planning on breastfeeding. So if this has piqued your curiosity and you'd like to learn a bit more in depth, because this was just a brief to get us thinking of how we can support the working mothers who are breastfeeding, and to also review in our own situations what we can do better, or what we can change to accommodate breastfeeding mothers who are working. But we have a workshop that is coming up at the end of the month, and I know Anthony is going to talk more about that, but it's a workshop on breastfeeding where we are going to look in depth into the mechanism of breastfeeding, how we can support mothers to ensure successful exclusive breastfeeding, how we can support mothers who have challenges with breastfeeding, if it's from going to work or other challenges, how to ensure that the mother has enough milk or maintains the supply of breast milk for those 6 months and beyond. All of that, we are going to be looking at it during our workshop. So I see a few questions, because now it's time for our Q&A. I'm going to head over there now and try to address some of these. So Mercy Koti asked, what kind of food is the mother expected to add to breast milk after 6 months of baby's age? So after 6 months of exclusive breastfeeding, then we get into the next stage, which we call complementary feeding. So during complementary feeding, the baby should be provided all the other nutrients. It should be a balanced diet. So from 6 months, now we start introducing the baby to all other foods, the carbohydrates, proteins, vegetables, fruits, all of that. So after 6 months of exclusive breastfeeding, the child is introduced to a balanced diet. Getamachu asked, are law enforced organizations to have breastfeeding concern in workplace? And number 2, if you use refrigerator, what temperature level of breast milk is to give for a baby? Number 3, to avoid expression and pumping for a matter of contamination, how frequent the mother need to get the child for direct breastfeeding? And then number 4, is the approach the same for below 6 months and above 6 months baby? I did not get your first question clearly. Kindly, if you can repeat that. I do not understand that question. Number 2, if you use refrigerator temperature level of breast milk, what is the temperature to give to the baby? So I said we take the breast milk from the fridge and we use a water bath to warm it. The milk should be warm enough to room temperature, or just a bit warm, like the temperature we use when bathing the baby. So the milk should not be given at below -4 degrees, because that is the the fridge temperature, but it should be warm enough, like as warm as a baby's bath. To avoid expression and pumping for a matter of contamination, how frequent the mother needs to get the child? So the child needs to feed every 2 to 3 hours. If the mother is to be given breaks to go and get the child, she needs to be given breaks every 2 to 3 hours. And you ask, is the approach the same for 6 months and above 6 months baby? Yes. So the approach for using a cup and spoon for feeding and for giving expressed breast milk is the same, whether the child is above 6 months or 6 months and above. The only difference is that for children below 6 months, they are only supposed to be fed on breast milk. If the child is above 6 months, then the child has started complementary feeding. So the child is given breast milk in addition to other foods. Joseph asked, okay, it's a compliment, thank you. Getacho asks, is it recommended to feed baby by bottle? No, it is not recommended, but I have put it here because it is one of the options that are available out there, and I wanted to talk about how to do it in a safe way. But we recommend, as nutritionists, WHO recommends that the baby is fed from a cup and spoon, and this is because they are easier to clean. The baby will not get the risk of having nipple confusion, like I talked with the teeth about the teeth from a bottle, and also the baby is less likely to swallow a lot of air and therefore less stomach discomfort. So it is not recommended. It's one of the options, but it is not recommended. We recommend that you use a cup and spoon. Joseph asked, in my country, South Sudan, most of the women are lacking breast milk. And what are the types of foods that they can eat to generate more breast milk? So this is a good question, because this is one of the challenges that mothers always bring up, that I don't think my baby is getting enough breast milk. What should I eat, or what should I do? So it is important to understand how breastfeeding works first, and the mechanism that the body has in place to produce breast milk, because it is highly hormonal mechanism. So there are hormones that are involved in producing breast milk, and unless in cases of severe starvation, the body is designed in a way that the mother can produce enough breast milk for their child. So what I would need us to address here, Joseph, is why the mothers feel that they do not have enough breast milk, because sometimes it's a perceived problem, it's not been confirmed. So first of all, we need to assess the children and see if they are getting enough breast milk. Are they giving enough wet nappies? Are the babies gaining weight as they should? Are they gaining height as they should? How is their MUAC? So we assess the children first to see if they are well fed. If the children are well fed, then the mothers are getting enough breast milk. As for what causes the mothers not to have enough breast milk, as I have said, unless it's a case of severe starvation or a health condition, the most likely issue is stress. So stress is one of the reasons that a lot of mothers do not get enough breast milk, or lack of support from the family. But there are foods that we can use that are called galactagogues, that are able to stimulate the breast milk. So some of these foods include things as simple as hot drinks, things like hot cocoa, hot drinking chocolate, sometimes hot porridge. Some kinds of nuts and seeds also help with these. Porridge also helps with these. So this is a very comprehensive topic about nutrition in lactation that I might not be able to answer right now, but I hope I have given you a bit of insight into that. So now I'm going to hand over the session back to Anthony so that he can take us through the next session of.
Thank you, Irene.
Yeah.
That was a very interesting session.
Yeah, just one last question that has popped up, sorry. So someone has asked, do we have exclusive breastfeeding policies in Africa? So now we would need to do further research and look at it country by country, but we embrace, or we follow the guidelines. Most African countries, we follow the guidelines of the WHO and the UNICEF, and they do have guidelines on exclusive breastfeeding. They have the baby-friendly hospital initiatives. So there are some policies in place. They may not be from all the governments, but there are policies that guide us in general. But we could look into those as country by country, but there are guidelines in place from the WHO.
Thank you, Irene, so much. Before we proceed, I do have 2 or 3 more questions here from some of our participants. Million Tefera asks, is there any research or figure on how much the average in millimeters breast can hold? This is in milk in 3 hours.
Sorry, is there any research on how much?
On how
Milk.
much, yes, milk the breast holds in 3 hours.
I have not come across such a research, but what I know is that breast milk is produced on demand. So in some women, they have more breast milk than others, but because the baby feeds every 3 hours or every 2 to 3 hours, maybe from that we can deduce and say that the breast can hold up to 150 ml of milk every 3 hours. But remember, this is different for every mother, and also depends on how often she breastfeeds, because the more she breastfeeds, the more milk she will have, versus one who does not breastfeed as often.
Thank you so much. I'll ask 1 or 2 more questions. So I'll combine the next question, which is from Mohammed and Rene. They both ask, how many days can the expressing breast milk, or rather the breastfeeding milk, sustain and be ready to use, as well as how do you properly preserve the expressed breast milk?
Okay, so expressed breast milk, if you do not have a refrigerator or a freezer to put it in, then it is okay to use within a day. So if you express breast milk in the morning, you can feed the baby with that milk for that day. So around 8 to 12 hours, but it should be kept in an airtight sealed container and be kept in a cool place, not in direct heat. We can preserve breast milk in a fridge for up to a week if it's just in the fridge. If it is frozen or in a freezer bag, it can be kept for 6 to 12 months and be safe.
Thank you so much.
Yes.
Thank you so much. I do have some participants who've raised their hands, and I will ask them, I will unmute them to answer questions. So there's Joseph, Ali, and Jose. In the meantime, I do have a question also here from our participants that you can be answering while our participants prepare to speak, including Ibrahim. I've seen your hand was up, and Ali. While they prepare themselves to ask their questions, I do have one question from a participant who asks, what is the best method of breastfeeding, or what is the best way of feeding your child, rather? Is it through breastfeeding, or is it through the bottle? So kindly, maybe you can elaborate on that a little bit more.
Okay. So as I said, when we were looking at the definition of breastfeeding, we said breastfeeding is when the child is fed using mother's milk. So that can be done through direct suckling from the breast by the baby, or expressing the milk and using cup and spoon or bottle feeding. So the ones that we recommend are, of course, the one where the child feeds directly from the mother's breast or suckles at the mother's breast, because it has many more benefits, because the mother is bonding with the child. There is that bond of trust, and it is also contamination free because there are no utensils being used. There's no need to reheat it. It has many more benefits. But if that is not able to be sustained, as in this case where we were discussing breastfeeding mothers who are at the workplace, then when they express breast milk, what we recommend is cup and spoon. Using a cup and spoon is what is recommended after. If you cannot sustain the breast direct suckling, then cup and spoon is what is recommended next.
Okay, thank you, Irene. And I believe that answer has also answered Joseph's question on South Sudan and the lack of breast milk. So Jose, if you can unmute yourself and just quickly ask your question. Jose?
Allow me to answer a few more questions. Hello.
Yes, we can hear you. I've seen that Joseph and Mohammed have had an issue with their audio. They've asked in the Q&A section. So you can answer the two questions and then we'll move on in the interest of time.
Yes. So Mohammed asked how mothers who live in rural areas can follow the policy of breastfeeding. So mothers in rural areas can follow the policy of breastfeeding because if in any case, I think in rural areas, they have more community support. So, and they have better and more flexible schedules. So I think the ones in rural areas might have a better chance of successfully attaining the 6 months of exclusive breastfeeding versus the rural areas. But I'm open to correction on that. But those in rural areas, I think you mean those who do not have the facilities that we are talking about, the breast pumps and the refrigerators and things like those. So as I said, the mother can be using their hand to hand express the breast milk. And then they just need a container that can be washed clean and can be air dried and sterilized with hot water if they do not have other technology to sterilize. And then the mother can be expressing milk for 1 day and the milk is used that day. So for example, a mother can express milk in the morning before they leave for the next 3 feeds and leave the feeds. And then maybe at lunch hour, they can express some more milk for the baby to use. So for those who do not have like the refrigerators or the coolers, they can just work their way around that challenge. The only difference is that now they won't have a lot of breast milk stored that they can use for a long time, but they can express on a daily basis and the expressed milk be used fresh. As I said, it can be preserved in a cool, dry place, ensure that the container is sterilized before use, that it is airtight so that no contaminants can get in, and it can be stored in a very cool place so that it doesn't be exposed to heat. Joseph is asking, can someone breastfeed after a cesarean? Yes. So the initiation of breastfeeding is recommended after the first hour of birth, but in a cesarean, we find that the mother might not be able to handle the child after that 1 hour. But as soon as the mother is awake and conscious, she should be given the baby for skin to skin so that the milk letdown can be stimulated. So cesarean, after a cesarean section, a mother can and should be able to be supported so that they can breastfeed. Pius asked what's the maximum quantity of milk that a breastfed baby, that a breastfeeding baby is supposed to receive a day. We gave an estimate for this. If you remember, we said that according to research, on average, so your baby can take less or more of these, but on average, babies 1 to 6 months need about from 570 ml to 900 ml every day. So within that range, most of the babies will be well fed. Anonymous asks, most mothers complain that they don't have breast milk, especially in rural areas, and start to practice mixed feeding. What will you advise? So mixed feeding is not recommended because of the risk it poses, and we all know the benefits that exclusive breastfeeding has. So one of the things that you should do is to find out the challenges that these mothers have, because if we can be able to understand the challenges that they have and help them overcome them, then they can be able to do the exclusive breastfeeding. So go and find out, are they not able to exclusively breastfeed because they are under too much stress? Are they not well supported by the family, so that even if they express milk, there's no one to give the baby that milk? Is it a situation where they don't understand the importance of doing exclusive breastfeeding, so that they are disregarding this advice and they're not putting in the effort to maintain breastfeeding up to 6 months? So these mothers are saying that they don't have enough milk. As I said, in most cases, unless there is a very special medical condition or the mother is starving, the body is designed in a way that the mother will be able to produce enough milk for the baby. So when the mother says, I do not have enough milk, then we should look further into those reasons. Is it a perceived lack of it? Is it that the mother has too many challenges so that breastfeeding becomes more problematic than the mother can be able to maintain? So we need to look into why they prefer mixed feeding, and then address that from that point of view, that if we address the challenge, then these mothers can be supported to achieve this exclusive breastfeeding. The last one, is it advisable to breastfeed another mother's baby in case she doesn't have sufficient milk? So you're asking about the issue of having wet nurses. So in some cultures it is done, but the ultimate goal is that the mother should be able to breastfeed her baby, because remember, the breast milk is designed in a way that the mother's body can be able to even react to a child's need. So for example, if a child is exposed to some pathogens or some bacteria or something, when the baby is breastfeeding, the mother's body is able to detect this, and the milk formulation actually changes to help the baby fight off those pathogens. So while it is one of the solutions, if the mother is there, the ultimate solution is to support this mother to have enough milk to breastfeed her own baby. Yeah, I think I have addressed most of the questions. So Diana, I think you can take over now.
Thank you so much, Maregi. And as I've put in the chat, more questions, more answers will be provided in our community forum, and I've shared with you a link to join our community forum. At this point, I'd like to take you through our upcoming training. As Maregi had mentioned, Irene Maregi did mention, she mentioned it in briefing. So this is a comprehensive training on breastfeeding, which will be a 3-day workshop from the 28th of March all the way to 30th of March. And what you're seeing on your screen right now is the link that I have shared, which I'll share again with you to join this workshop. If you're interested in the workshop, it will be a very comprehensive workshop, just in more detail on top of what we've learned on this on top of what we've learned during this webinar. And we'll be able to see a deeper understanding into the nutritional needs of a newborn, that is infants 0 to 6 months, as well as even look at breast milk substitutes and other milk sources, as well as get an in-depth understanding of different ailments or different infections that a baby can get and how to prevent them and how to prevent such infections during breastfeeding. So I do welcome you to register for this training. As I mentioned, it will be from the 20th to 30th of March. The training fee will be $200 and the deadline is on the 21st of March. And by clicking on the link you can see on your screen here that I'm hovering over, you'll be led into a registration form and you'll be able to fill that registration form and our team will be able to take up from there. If in case you're not able to register at this time, or maybe you think you won't be able to meet the registration deadline, you can always come at the bottom of the page here where you'll be able to fill in your details, your name, your email address, your mobile, and a message to us. And one of our team members will be able to reach out to you and we'll be able to take you through registration or maybe any questions that you may have in regards to this training. So I really do encourage you to attend this training. At the end of this training, you'll receive a digital certification to show that you do have the skills in breastfeeding, you do have the technical skills and technical know-how when it comes to breastfeeding and nutritional needs of 0 to 6 month old babies. Having said that, I've mentioned that we are going to be sharing what we've been discussing here today and the questions that have been asked today. We're going to be sharing them on our community forum. This is Discord, and I just want to share with you a little bit about Discord. While my okay, there we go. I'm able to share with you. I believe you can see my screen on your end. So this is our community forum on Discord. And the reason why we're moving our main community forum into Discord is just the level of engagement that is at Discord. So on Discord, you're not just engaging with your fellow participants, you're not engaging with people who have a shared common interest, you're also engaging with our trainers such as Irene. So in case if you have any question on today's webinar, you can come here and you can be able to put in your message. I have shared the link. Please kindly click on the link and join our community forum. And this is where we share a lot of our communication. And one of the reasons why we are doing this on Discord is it's compatible with different applications. For instance, this is a former webinar, and we were able to share this webinar on Discord. And when I click on the webinar, I know the internet is a little bit slow, so it's not going to show. It doesn't kick me out of Discord and takes me to YouTube. Rather, it plays the video within YouTube. Something else is the fact that you can use Discord on several systems. It's supported by several different systems. This means that you can download it like WhatsApp on your phone. You're able to have a real-time communication on your phone, similar to the way you use WhatsApp. You can use it on your mobile phone, on your laptop, on web. You're able to use it on different applications, and that's really good for you, as well as the security feature. So Discord, unlike WhatsApp, where you see people's phone numbers, so here you're not able to see anyone's phone number, you're not able to see anyone's personal information on Discord. And that is something that is really good with Discord. And I really encourage you to download Discord and join our community forum, because this webinar will also be shared on Discord as well. Having said that, I believe we've come to the end of our webinar. I really would like to encourage you to register for this upcoming training. Like I mentioned, you will receive a digital certification, and it will be an in-depth training, just because what we covered today was more of basics, more of an overview. So having said that, I do bid you farewell at this moment. I want to say thank you for attending this webinar. Thank you for taking your time to attend this webinar. And it's really strange that this webinar on breastfeeding fell on International Women's Day. So to all our women who have attended this webinar, I wish you a happy Women's International Day, and goodbye. Thank you.
Are you a humanitarian or development professional looking to take your skills to the next level? Then our self-paced online courses are perfect for you. We cover all the key areas you need to know, including monitoring, evaluation, accountability, and learning, water, sanitation and hygiene, disaster risk reduction and management, food security and nutrition and emergencies, procurement and supply chain management, human nutrition and dietetics, maternal, infant and young child nutrition. Our courses are designed to help you advance your career, stay ahead of the competition, and make a real impact in your field. And the best part is that you can study at your own pace and on your own time. So don't wait. Enroll now and start advancing your skills today.